Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 11, Episode 94. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Glad to be back with you guys for this Wednesday show. Dave, we were debating Wednesday, Friday show, but enough news has happened, including some news that just came in Wednesday morning regarding Eric Ebron's contract, that I think it was worthwhile doing at least a short podcast today.
Yeah, we've don't forget Chase Claypool going urban cowboy or what, or I don't know. Where do you want to start with this?
Let's start with Ebron, since that was the news that was most immediate before we jumped on the podcast. According to ESPN's Brooke Pryor, Eric Ebron has reworked his contract in some form or fashion that frees up just under $4 million of cap space, $3.9 million to be exact. We don't know the exact terms of the deal right now, but the math you're working with basically says this is a voidable year extension.
Yeah, certainly that's the way the math works out, and I'm all about the math. So there will be math in today's Terrible Podcast episode. It looks like, and I use that loosely because sometimes things, until you have specifics on it, you have to go by the way things look. But Eric Ebron, and this would make sense, right? He was due a $500,000 roster bonus on March 22nd, a couple of days ago. And what it sounds like has happened is they've turned that $500,000 roster bonus he was due, along with, and he was due a $5.5 million base salary on top of it. So what they've done likely is turn all but $1.075 million of that $5.5 million base salary, in addition to the additional $500,000 that he was due, into a signing bonus. And then it certainly sounds like they added 4 voidable years onto that thing as well too. So if indeed that is the case, it would have dropped his cap number in 2021 by $3.94 million overall. Now Brooke Pryor has it 3.9. Did she just not carry it out another spot? I mean, 3.9 is closer to 3. If it had been higher than 3.5, she probably would have rounded it up to 4. But anyway, that's what it's at least looking like right now. The key point is they now have an additional $3.99 million and then probably some change to work with here, salary cap wise. Why they didn't do this earlier? Look, even where this team entered Wednesday with, as far as cap space goes, when you look ahead at the things coming down, the expected cost and all, they don't have any money. They didn't have any cap space. Mm-hmm. And we'll go over that maybe a little bit more in detail here later in the show, why exactly that is. But in the meantime here, they do have a little bit of room to work with. So I would expect them to use that little bit of room for a couple more little minor signings here.
Right. I know I've gotten a couple questions asking, well, why do this? You just cut Steven Nelson. That saved over $8 million in cap space. Is there some sort of big move coming? And, I mean, we'll see what the plan is. But I think the reality is that this team did not have any money, and they had a lot of work to do to need to clear up a lot of money to get through not only the rest of the free agency, but, draft and for the regular season itself. So that's my read of the situation, is that I think people are underestimating how much money the Steelers needed to clear in order to have a draft class and in-season money and practice squad and et cetera, et cetera. So that's my read of why we're seeing.
Well, while we're on it, might as well go ahead and cover the math. I hope everybody has their thinking caps on here this morning. Here's the deal, folks. The Steelers entered. Obviously, they and we'll get to this in a moment about the Steven Nelson news, but they turned Steven Nelson loose on Tuesday, and that move initially, Nelson was scheduled to earn $8.25 million. The move after roster displacement was more along the lines of about $7.4 million in salary cap space saved. Now, if you want a real-time report of where that put the Steelers at salary cap-wise, it put them at it should put them at $8.365 million under the cap. All right. Now, this was prior to the Eric Ebron news this morning. Now, here's something else that you need to keep in mind here moving forward here, and is the expected cost. All right. The rookie pool. This is what the Steelers rookie pool, their 8 draft picks are scheduled. The total of their contracts is scheduled to be, or total cap charges in 2021 is scheduled to be a little over $8 million. Now, you're going to have roster displacement happen on top of that, and that'll dig into a good chunk of that. The roster displacement right now is like 5.8 million, or almost 5.9 million. So you're left with about, what is it, 2.3 million dollars in cap space that you will need to accommodate your draft class. So there's two. Let's call that 2.2. All right. Mm-hmm. You're gonna have to add a 52nd and 53rd player at some point during this process when the rule of 51 expires. That's another $1.32 million out at the minimum that you're going to be able to afford there. So keep me a running math total here, okay, Alex?
3.3 we're at right now.
All right. You're going to have a practice squad, and the minimum cost on that's a little over $2 million. Let's say they go the minimum route, which they won't. But let's give them the benefit of doubt. So add another $2 million onto that.
5.3.
All right. So now you're going to need probably $1 million in reserve to cover weekly practice squad and standard back and forth elevations to the roster. So add another $1 million onto that.
6.3.
All right. Now add $6 million to start the season with, to have in salary cap space for in-season break glass in case of emergency roster moves.
12.3, and you put that $6 million as a conservative figure, right?
That's a conservative figure. Yes.
Yeah. So 12.3 just off of those alone.
All right. 12.3, and then I told you that you currently have that 12.3 is how much more cap space you're going to use at a minimum, right?
Right.
Okay. Now I told you,
and that's not assuming any other free agent signings or anything else either. Which
right. All right. So, and I told you right now you are below the cap by 8. Let's call it 8.3. All right. So what is 8.3? If Johnny has 8.3 apples, and Susie needs 12.3 apples, how many apples is Johnny left with?
12.2 apples.
No.
8.3 and 3.9? No?
No, I said 12.3. If Johnny has 8.3 apples, and Susie's going to take 12.3 of those apples.
So you asked me 12.3 minus 8.3.
Johnny don't have no 12.3 apples.
Just what is the math here I'm trying to put into the calculator?
All right, 12.3 minus 8.3.
Is 4.
That's how much over the cap you technically are.
Okay.
I mean, that's your shortcomings, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
So you're going to make up $4 million.
All right. Now, we just gave you Ebron just gave you what?
3.9.
All right. So where does that put you?
$100,000 you got to find. Basically, the math adds up. Yeah, perfectly.
So you don't have it. You still don't have any room to do anything, right?
Right. Yeah. Again, this is like I said. People are underestimating how much money they needed to clear to do those in-season moves. Maybe I've even underestimated that because I've criticized this team for releasing Nelson, and maybe the math just said you had to do that. But I wouldn't expect – we'll see, but I wouldn't expect any major signings coming in some sort of chess, not checkers move coming from Kevin Colbert. I think it's just something that they have to do.
Does that make sense to everybody? Look, ahead of the Eric Ebron move, you had $8.3 million in salary cap space. And what are we adding to that today, Alex? 3.9. Go ahead. 8.3 and 3.9. I'm using rounded numbers here.
That's the math I went with earlier. 12.2 is the total.
All right. And we just added up all the future expenditures and came about with that same number of future expenditures on the conservative side.
Yeah, we were at 12.3, and that's 12.2. So again, it basically is 1-to-1. So there you go. So again, I mean, we'll see, what the Kevin Colbert's master plan is, but I think this is just them now working towards post. Obviously, we're at it now, but post March 17th life.
Right.
So that's the update. Hopefully, we'll get official word on Ebron's contract here shortly.
Now, here's something else. Now, obviously, you still have the ability to create another $5.1 million in salary cap space via restructures on Stephon Tuitt and Chris Boswell. All right. So that is still probably likely going to happen because right now they're at zero, basically. Mm-hmm. Right. So and we'll see what happens with the Watt extension. I would expect the Watt extension when it happens to kind of result in his cap number not really moving at all. The math kind of works out that way. Now, will David DeCastro get extended? He's really the only other one you have the possibility to do a contract extension with, right?
Right.
All right, and what are you going to say there? A couple million, couple $3 million maybe, with a contract extension for him. So, look, could they make, technically, do they have the cap space available to them right now to make a couple of minor moves and then make it up on the back end with the Tuitt and Boswell restructure? Yes. So technically, I guess you could say they would have around $5.5 million in cap space to maybe do something with here. But that also, we went real conservative on our expenditures numbers, right?
We went to the minimum on the $6 million, especially for the in-season money.
Right. We also went minimum on the practice squad as well too, and that minimum that $8 million could quickly grow to $10 million.
Right. Right. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. Is you use this money for your in-season stuff, and you use maybe 3 or 4 of the Tuitt Boz restructures down the line for the rest of free agency.
Right. Right. So it doesn't mean they're not. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're done, but don't expect anything huge.
Yeah, I don't think they're done. I mean, I hope they add an edge rusher. Your terrible take yesterday was a great, illustration of that. I mean, there's just nothing there right now. So hopefully they bring somebody in. I don't know who. All the guys I liked have now been signed, of course. So hopefully they bring somebody in, a tight end, a Jesse James, someone like that. So I don't think they're done, but I don't think this is, they're bringing in this this great cornerback or some high price free agent, which doesn't even exist right now anyway.
Let me tell you this: would you use Alejandro Villanueva is still out there, right? You can get him on a, what do we say, if a 4-year voidable, if you put him on a Juju special, and you could get his cap hit around 2 point something,
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. It didn't feel like they had a lot of interest in bringing him back, and even if it's a cheaper number than what they thought, I don't know if that interest is there. But maybe we'll see. Obviously, his market has been very quiet.
Now, obviously, the downside of all this, assuming this Eric Ebron is a voidable situation here, you just added another $3.94 million in potential dead money to 2022. So remember all those people that were bragging about all that cap space that the Steelers have? Well, they slowly eaten into it, and we haven't even gotten to that monster cap charge that T.J. Watt's going to have in 2022, assuming he gets the extension that we think he's going to get. And who knows, they might not be done with this voidable kind of year stuff as well too. So I warned everybody, don't get too excited about all that cap space. The time to look at that the cap space for 2022 is right when the start of the 2021 season begins, but because at that time all the restructures, and here's another thing: if you do a restructure on Tuitt and Boswell, you're going to have some extra money kicked ahead into 2022. So stop with the looking ahead at 2022. I promise you, we will take a real deep dive look at that right at the start of the 2021 season when we know all of these future moves have been made.
Right, because that number will continue to shift and change over the coming months. I just suggested to you last night in the group chat, avoidable year extension for Joe Hayden. Was that on the table? And maybe it still is. Who knows? We'll see.
Oh, I'm going to probably need a shower here.
All right. Settle down. It's like 8 over there. All right, Dave. Well, you know who else might need a cold shower? Chase Claypool after the video that TMZ posted, I think this morning it was, of him. And I don't want to speculate. I don't know how to phrase this exactly. He was involved in some sort of bar scuffle. I mean, he didn't seem to do a whole lot. I watched the video. Maybe allegedly kicked somebody. I really couldn't tell. I don't know if you could kind of tell what was happening there, but the old Herm Edwards, nothing good happens after midnight, and that's what happened with Chase Claypool.
My old man used to tell me that all the time as well too, and I
don't think you listen.
I didn't listen. Well, sometimes you just gotta find out for yourself, don't you? It doesn't sound like anybody was, at least Chase Claypool doesn't sound like he was hurt. This happened on the 13th, I believe, in California at some sort of tavern/bar, I guess. The cops were apparently called. It doesn't seem like there were any charges or anything filed. Boys being boys. I guess is the long and short of it. And hopefully this winds up being a lesson for Chase Claypool that doesn't cost him anything. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I think that the probably the worst thing or at least hopefully the worst thing that comes out of this for Chase Claypool is he gets a stern talking to from head coach Mike Tomlin. But yeah, look, I was no angel, so I'm not going to throw. My glass house needs to is about plexiglass by about now. But look, you're a high profile person like that, and in today's world, I mean, you could get away with it. Get away with this when you were the '70s Steelers, and none of it show up on TMZ, right? Because nobody had camera phones there. But the eye in the sky is always watching you, right? And especially in today's world, and everybody is media today. So hopefully that's the lesson learned here. But it doesn't sound too overly serious, at least judging by the TMZ report.
Right. Yeah, obviously you don't want to put yourself in this situation from a legal liability standpoint. NFL, looking into that, or potentially, who knows if they will or not. And then just also, you don't want to risk your own injury. You could have easily, somebody like dove at his knees, I saw in that video. God forbid he gets hurt in that. I mean, what a way to get injured. Hopefully he seems to be okay, which thank goodness. But just don't want to put yourself in that situation.
Right.
All right, Dave, where to now? The Steelers yesterday made official the release of cornerback Steven Nelson, and he seemed to kind of strong arm his way out a little bit at the end. He tweeted, I forget what the exact verbiage was in a tweet, but basically saying, don't hold me hostage here in Pittsburgh, let me go. And shortly after tweeting that message, the Steelers did officially release him. So that was the report all along. Steelers obviously could not find a trade partner for him, released a trade that was, workable on both sides. And so Nelson becomes a free agent.
Yeah, that escalated quickly, didn't it?
It did.
And why don't you be the bad guy here and cover what Jerry Dulac said later yesterday afternoon?
Yeah, well, there's just been a lot of people trying to figure out, because this news came out of nowhere. 2 weeks ago, we were talking about extension for Steven Nelson, the value to the team, all that kind of stuff. And then the initial thought was, and I even had the initial thought was, okay, is Nelson asking for an extension and he wants out? The Steelers wouldn't give it to him. But I think once you saw the Juju moves and other moves that came in, and the reporting from Ian Rappaport and even what Bob Labriola speculated, and then what Jerry Dulac wrote, which is saying that no, Nelson did nothing to initiate this. He didn't ask for a trade or anything like that. This was a cap clearing, cost cutting move that was initiated by the Steelers that allowed him to try to seek a trade, or failing that, they were going to release him. And so Nelson got released. So I know Nelson's kind of gotten a bad reputation. A lot of fans are angry at him. They feel like he forced his way out, and they didn't like the comment, the tweet about being held hostage and all that. But none of that seems to be the case. This was a Pittsburgh Steelers, by all reports at least, initiated move to clear cap space.
I know people aren't going to like us taking the side of the player here, probably because the pitchforks and the torches have already been sharpened and lit, right? It seems like for the most part, but quite honestly, from where I sit right now, until somebody can give me something more on this, this looks like Steven Nelson got blindsided here. We talked a couple days ago or a couple podcasts ago about, man, can the Steelers' plan really have been this, that, right? Talking about the Cameron Sutton, the Juju, and the Vince Williams, and all along those lines. But and then we include, because I think the Nelson news was out at the time too, that we were talking about. How does this come about that they put him on the trade blocks, and that couldn't have been the plan. Well, after looking at this from the salary cap's perspective, the deeper dive, which we just covered earlier in the show, I did that last night. I can't stay away from that stuff. I gotta be punching those things in. But looking at this, Alex, and feel free to disagree. This looks like now, after the fact, that the plan all along was A, get Cameron Sutton re-signed on the cheap if possible. B, monitor the situation with Juju, let him test free agency, and if we can get him back on a voidable year deal for a very low cap charge, let's do that. And C would be, if we can make both those things happen, then Steven Nelson's we're going to have to release or trade Steven Nelson. And after they, all this, he was given permission to seek the trade, right after that ink dried on Cameron Sutton and Juju Smith-Schuster's contracts there. So I know it's easy to kind of frame this and say, the way it's been reported so far is saying Steven Nelson asked for a trade, or maybe Steven Nelson was looking at wanting a contract and the Steelers didn't give it to him, and he wanted out. If you look at the salary cap situation, they really needed that money, and I'm not just talking about just for Juju either. I'm talking about as part of the whole plan. I don't think Steven Nelson forced his way out of Pittsburgh. I think the Steelers forced Steven Nelson's way out of Pittsburgh.
That's my view of it too. Now, I know we don't know that for a fact, but based on all the evidence and reporting, that appears to be the case. And so I've just had a lot of difficulty wrestling with this decision by the team for a lot of reasons. One, because the Steelers will still profess themselves as we're Super Bowl contenders, potentially Ben's last year. We're going to make a run at this thing. On the other hand, I've said this before, on the other hand, they say, let's cut Steven Nelson. And if you want to call him a number one corner on this team, number two, I called number one corner yesterday. You would act like I called him a Hall of Famer. I mean, people got really upset about that. But however you want to define him,
yeah, it's that after the fact bias
right.
that fans have.
Sure. Yeah.
He wasn't good anyway.
Yeah, it's a rationalization, and I love Steelers Nation, but I think that happens a lot with some of these players. Is they're good when they're here, and once they're gone, we didn't need him. He wasn't that good anyway. But however you want to define, Steven Nelson, Joe Hayden, who the best corner in this team is. Also is a very good cover corner, very good signing. Had a fantastic 2019, a little bit of regression last year, but I kind of see that as just a regression to the mean because he was just so good in 2019. And the defense is obviously worse off without Steven Nelson. And with all the other pieces you've lost defensively, it just really adds up. And I just have to ask myself, could there be another way? Obviously they're doing the voidable year extension with Eric Ebron. Could you have done that with Joe Hayden? I think he probably could have done that. If that means keeping Steven Nelson and not signing Joe Haig, for example, I'll obviously do that because that contract ended up being a little bit heavier than what we thought. I just feel like there had to have been another path than releasing, arguably, to me, your best corner or still just a very good cover corner in a defense that needs good cover corners.
Now, the way I would have went on this is I would have terminated the contract of Eric Ebron, and then I would have went to Steven Nelson and see if he would have done this 4-year voidable restructure that way, and then I would have signed 10 undrafted free agent tight ends and had a big battle royal during the summer to see which one or two of those guys could come out of there that I could use instead of going the way that they went there. I'm with you. I don't like how the way. And here's the other thing. I know Joe Haig's contract isn't massive by any stretch of imagination, but that's a little bit. And you
what's the cap hit on that for this year?
Let me pull up my page
Post
here.
displacement. I forget what I know it's not an astronomical number, obviously, but it's a 2-year, $5 million contract. I mean, it's what, a $2 million cap hit.
I mean, it's a $1.5 million cap hit this year, and when you could have probably had that cap hit at the same at $987,500. I mean, I know it looks like we're splitting hairs here, but they have to be splitting hair. They got to be splitting salary cap hairs.
They've been doing that all offseason. They've been doing every avoidable they're avoiding, Sutton's contract and Juju's contract. They're splitting hairs. You have to, as you said.
And if Joe Haig doesn't want to sign for that, then find someone else, because quite honestly, the tape. I mean, okay, maybe the tape does match a $1.5 million cap charge player, but you can't look at the player that way. You have to look at what you're paying him per year, along those lines. A cap number is just a cap number, and can kind of be manipulated a little bit there. But just overall, when his tape doesn't match really to me. Maybe just barely what they paid him in the total of the contract, but it feels like they should have fought harder to get him at a little bit lower price. It feels like maybe they should have called Zach Banner's bluff, and this is no disrespect to Zach Banner, okay? But could you have gotten him a little bit cheaper if you called his bluff on it? I don't know. He says that
they're on a 3-year deal. He said he talked about a 3-year deal with the team. Could have spread that out even more.
Right. Could you have done something there? Who else? We haven't seen the official numbers on it. Hopefully, I'll tell you this: the Miles Killebrew better have been just a minimum salary benefit contract there, or else. I mean, they can't afford to use any other cap space anywhere else there. Chris Wormley's contract. I mean, $1.6 million cap charge, but I mean, once again, I know we're splitting hairs here. This isn't. Kevin Colbert normally gets the bargain deals in these situations, and it doesn't look like he has this time around. So yeah, I'm with you, Alex, and you and I kind of quickly chatted last night. We've said all along that, man, probably this defense is probably going to take a step backwards a little bit in 2021 overall. Heck, I didn't know that would include Alu being gone. And Steven Nelson being gone.
Right on top of everybody else. On top of Vince Williams and Mike Hilton and Bud Dupree, the guys we knew were going to go. And some great run defenders, too, in an AFC North where you better stop the run. So I can even give this team some grace on Alu. I mean, I think I saw a couple of rumors, reports that he wanted to go back to Jacksonville, be closer to family, and if he wants to do that, nothing Pittsburgh could do. But and again, I understand I'm not running all the math here, and I'm sure they have, and I'm sure quarterback.
But I have run the math, though.
Yeah. I mean, hypothetically, if you do avoidable year extension with Joe Haden, which I think he would have done, if you go to him and say, Joe, we want to keep Steven Nelson, your buddy, your opposite cornerback, and to do that, we need to take avoidable year extension the way that Ebron and other guys have. I think he would have done that. And then say you don't sign Joe Haig, and even if you don't sign Chris Wormley, doesn't that get really close to this money you saved with the release of Steven Nelson? I don't think you get all the way there, but you get pretty close, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, you could, yeah, and especially if you start cutting the hairs close, like we just said on some of these other deals, right? On the Wormley and
because Wormley and Haig, that would have freed up $3 million.
Yeah,
about $3 million, and then Hayden Woodley extension would have saved $4 or $5 million, I think.
Well, the Hayden, if you would have, in other words, if you were done, I have somewhere the Hayden. I mean, it wouldn't have saved.
He's making $7 million this year. You reduce that to $1 something as his base salary.
Right. One. Okay. Look. Here's what you take the 7 and let's say you take the $6 million then and then divide that by 5. You're not saving. You're not saving a lot that way.
Well, you're saving like $5 million, aren't you? I mean, it's a 2.2 or 2 point something cap charge in 2022.
What's 6 minus 5? 6 minus 1 is 5. 7 minus 1 is 6. 6 divided by 5 is what?
1.2.
All right. What's 1.2 times 4?
Times 4? 4.8.
That's about what you would save then.
Yeah, about 5. And so I just saved you about $8 million, a little less, so not as much as Nelson, but pretty close. And I think you could have found the extra $500K some other way. And are you a better team to have Steven Nelson and not have Chris Wormley and Joe Haig? I think you are.
I mean, and this all assumes that they did what we think they did with the Eric Ebron contract. Right. I mean, if you're going to do it with him, why wouldn't you do it with a guy like Joe Hayden?
Yeah.
You know,
I thought,
and maybe they will later on in the offseason here. You know, but nothing to. Here's the reason why they had to do that now with Eric Ebron, because there was a date attached to the $500,000 roster bonus. Joe Hayden doesn't have an attachment to his, and Steven Nelson didn't have any kind of roster dated stuff either there. But I mean, you could have just as easily gone to probably Nelson as well, unless Nelson just said no. You know, but I mean, if you're telling them, look, you can make your $8.25 million, but this is the way that you're going to have to make it. I bet he does it, right? You know,
I don't think you had to go to Nelson and do anything with Nelson. You do it with the other guys,
right? You
do it with Hayden, and you do it with Ebron apparently. And again, I understand all the in-season cap stuff that we just illustrated. You have a lot of cap space you need to clear up, but obviously, no matter how you want to slice it, you're a worse off team without Steven Nelson. In a year where you think you can win a Super Bowl, and that's just another guy you've lost in an offseason where you've lost a ton of pieces defensively, and that hurts your team.
Look, I would love nothing more to be wrong about this defense, you know, moving forward here, and maybe we will be, but I mean, you just look and to me, I don't care how you want to boil it down to, it all comes down to the adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat, and really run defense in key situations there. It does not look like, from where I sit right now. Now we still got a draft to go, and we'll see what happens with the rest of free agency. I'm not going to hold my breath on that, but I just can't see where the run defense is any better than last year from the personnel right now. And I certainly can't see right now from a personnel standpoint where, the adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat will get better. Now, how much worse will it get? We'll see. But I mean, you better be, we know the numbers that you better be under if you're going to win the Super Bowl here. And I don't think you can lean on the offense as much as you probably think that people think that they can lean on the offense so far.
Yeah. So anyway, maybe they felt like they had to do it, had no other moves on the board, but just a worse off team because of it. No doubt about that. Cam Sutton probably starting right cornerback. He may kick to the nickel and sub-package situations, and James Pierre, Justin Lane can battle it out for that right corner spot. And obviously they could add a low-level free agent or a draft pick and from the slot or the outside. So I don't think this cornerback room is quite finished yet.
Right.
All right, Dave.
Speaking of that real quick, and we kind of chatted about this last night as well, too. This team's drafting a corner, right?
I would assume so, yes.
All right. What kind of corner?
I think it could be either. It could be slot or it could be an outside corner. My gut tells me they're more apt to take a slot corner because I've always liked Sutton more on the outside than in the slot, although he has improved in the slot. He can play both. And I think they do like James Pierre, and even Justin Lane can get one last shot. So my gut says a slot is more likely, but it could go either way.
All right. I tend to think that they'll go with an outside guy or at least a guy that can play outside. You know.
Mm-hmm. But don't you like Sutton more? Do you like Sutton in the slot more or Sutton on the outside more?
I mean,
played a ton of the outside.
We haven't seen a lot of it though. That's the problem, right?
But in terms of, and he's made strides as a run defender, but he's still not maybe great. Not the Mike Hilton level, obviously. And as a blitzer, he's pretty poor. So I like him better on the outside.
From where I'm at right now, I like him better in the slot. But that's lack of tape, I think.
Right. That's fair. So it could go either way. I think a corner gets drafted fairly early. Maybe as high as even the second round, right, to be honest with you.
All right.
So we'll see. But speaking of the draft, Steelers, again, very busy at pro days this week, and we've been busy trying to find out where these guys are at. Yesterday was Alabama's pro day, and no surprise, Mike Tomlin, Kevin Colbert attended, and we found Matt Canada as the third member of the Steelers to attend that pro day workout, which is no surprise given all the offensive talent Alabama had. A lot of guys did not work out, unfortunately, including Najee Harris, but Alex Leatherwood had a really good workout, and so Alabama squarely on the Steelers' radar joining probably the rest of the league in that regard.
Yeah, no shocker there, right?
Right. The only question I had was who was the third guy going to be, and it ended up being Matt Canada, just like Clemson.
And you found him, didn't you?
I did. It didn't take that long. It took only 15 minutes. I just had to go through all of the photos on Alabama's website. There was nothing there. I went through everything on Twitter, nothing there, and then a bunch of YouTube videos. And the first video I watched, you found them, so it wasn't too bad.
Right. And how significant is that Canada showing up where these running backs are?
Well, I think he's showing up at places with a lot of offensive talent overall. Clemson and Bama are the two places he's gone to. So I think obviously they both have really good running backs in Etienne and Najee Harris, but I think it's more about there's just a collective overall of offensive talent, and that's why he's there.
All right.
But so they also have had some meetings. We know we've been in some of these Zoom calls, which have been, I think, a blast for both of us.
Oh, man, loving that. How fun is that, Alex?
It's a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll be at Michigan's today virtually. We know UCLA defensive lineman Osa Odigizua met with Mike Tomlin this past Saturday. South Carolina cornerback J.C. Horn said he met with the Steelers as well. And a couple – did we talk about the Northern Iowa guys? I don't know if we mentioned that or not. Ellerson Smith and Spencer Brown have said they've had contact with Pittsburgh.
I'm gonna point to the fence here. All right.
Babe Ruth it for him.
All right. They're gonna draft one of those two kids.
Who's more likely, Brown or Smith?
Yes.
I'm gonna make you can't call your shot and then take a pitch, Dave.
Is that what I did?
You did.
Most likely, I'll say.
I'm gonna go Smith.
I'll say the tackle.
You're gonna go Spencer Brown.
Right. I'll go Spencer Brown. Kevin Colbert has said how deep this tackle class is. I really think this kid slips down into that third round. He would be perfect right there in the third round, I think. All right, but with the attention that those two were both Senior Bowl kids, so they that works in their favor there. They both have had contact with the Steelers. And you said Clem was at the pro day.
Correct.
Man, that's a lot of Blues Clues you're giving me, Alex.
They're definitely Clem has been at a lot of these small school pro days, which I think speaks to the talent of these small school guys like Quinn Miners and Dylan Raduns and Spencer Brown, but also speaks to we need to get eyes on these guys because they either didn't play or barely played in 2020. We need to really see these guys in person, which is obviously a show of interest, but I think even more so because there isn't like tape you can put on to these guys from this past season.
I'm telling you right now, they're going to draft one of those two kids. What if they? I wouldn't surprise me if they drafted both of them. The thing with Smith is he small school kid and plus didn't play this past season, and he's a little longer than the Steelers like, right? Something like 6'6" or something, 6'5". Yeah. 6'5", 6'6", and all, a little bit longer than normally what the Steelers chase when it comes to that position there. But not too terribly far off, and he's got some nice bend to him. He's got some nice pass rush moves already, and I think that was kind of evident. He showed at the Senior Bowl that he belongs, Mm-hmm. And he's that kind of edge rusher. I think that's due to him not playing and due to small school and yada yada, it's going to get pushed down a little bit, fifth round, so to speak, and all. He'd be perfect later in the draft. And what do you think about? I think you already mentioned my terrible take from yesterday. This team right now, after losing, I don't know if we passed on the word that Daney is signed with the Tennessee Titans or not. But that was an expected loss. Is it a huge surprise? It'd been nice if they got him back for a minimum salary deal. Didn't work out the way. Not a big deal in the grand scheme of things. Probably not a big loss overall per se. I mean, you like him from a special teams aspects, I think, more than anything. But right now, as we sit here right now, this depth chart, TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, and Christian Kuntz.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's it. That's the list.
Yeah, there's no depth there. And so I still hope they're going to sign somebody in free agency. Again, I don't know their name. I mean, Derek Rivers, he got signed to a 1-year, $1.1 million deal with Houston. I would have taken that all day to bring him to Pittsburgh, but he went with Casario, who drafted him up in New England. Yeah, but they got to add probably through both, but at least through the draft, and I think they will draft an outside linebacker.
I do too, and I think they better keep their eyes peeled for a trade or look. You're not going to trade for a high price guy. So what I mean by a trade is somebody still on their rookie contract, Chase Winovich, something along those lines. I would be looking high and low right now to find me an edge rusher still on a rookie contract that maybe you liked through the process and all that could be had for, I don't know, fourth, fifth round pick. And then I would spend another pick on shoring up that position because they got nothing there. They have, and I'm not just talking about just the draft addressing that position in the draft. That's still not enough, right? You're not going to spend you're not going to spend 2 draft picks on 2 edge rushers. At least I wouldn't think that they would be. So, and God bless Christian Kuntz, but I mean, let's be real here, right?
Yeah, he's never played an NFL snap before. So yeah, they need to draft somebody, and I think trading down makes a lot of sense at some point in this draft. But that's a conversation for a different time. Yeah, there's nothing there, and you need at least a good number 3. So they got to add. Right,
and I would expect that to happen before the draft. We'll see if I'm right.
We'll see. And then with Brown's the one guy, the tackle from Northern Iowa. He's the one guy you need to go back and really rewatch because I watched him at the Senior Bowl. I thought he had a bad week. Some people disagreed, but I know he didn't play this past season, so he was probably pretty rusty. But everyone says his tape is excellent, and he had a heck of a workout. He put up some crazy athletic testing numbers for being 6'8", 314, sub 7 second, 3-cone, 4 high 4.8s, low 4.9s. In the 40, I think a good broad, like 9 something in the broad. I know those are pro day numbers, so maybe they're not quite as good if you would have had them at the combine, but super interesting profile. And I don't think he gets out of day 2, to be honest with you, Dave.
And that's why I kind of thought I think he's got a chance of being on the board at the Steelers in the 3rd round.
Yeah, I think
that's when you would have to take him right there, though.
Right, 88 is when you would need to take him if he's still there, which I'm not sure if he will be.
Did you read up on the coaching and all, talking about the process he went through of slowly? I think they originally brought him in as a tight end, and they kept putting weight on him, and he kept looking good, and he never lost his athleticism, and they kept 270, 280, and they obviously moved him, had moved him to tackle and all like that, and then they just kept going with it, and he took on the weight and great story. Somebody gets a chance, go and listen to the I think it's where did I see that? Maybe it's on their YouTube channel there. But the head coach talking about both those kids, Brown and Smith, during the pro day just recently. It's a great interview just to get to kind of know the kids and to see how part of the process is. And if you watch that coach talk about those two players, it'll make you say, man, I can see the Steelers. I can see both those kids being drafted by the Steelers. So we'll see. But I called my shot. One of those two is going to land with the Steelers there. Okay.
There you go. And just a reminder, Adrian Clem and college scouting director Phil Kreidler at Northern Iowa's pro day a couple days ago.
Is that you track this obviously more than anybody? Is that significant? Those two being together at one pro day, especially a small school one like that? I mean,
I don't know about them being together. Kreidler's done a couple small schools this year. He was at Central Arkansas last week, Northern Iowa this week. But anytime you send Kreidler, who's a pretty high-ranking member of that front office, and your position coach to see those guys, I think that is pretty significant. I mean, the Steelers obviously don't draft a ton of small school guys, but when they do, the interest is pretty clear. I remember John Mitchell being at Javon Hargrave's pro day at South Carolina State a couple years back. And so I know everyone always says, they're bluffing and stuff like that. Steelers do not bluff. They're pretty transparent about where they go and the guys that they like and they want to see. So I think that is pretty significant.
Okay. Any other pro day news? I get a kick out of watching you work the pro day tape.
It's a lot of fun. That's South Carolina. I don't know who was there. I'll have to maybe double check that. Dan Colbert's on the Maction Trail at Bowling Green, Toledo in the same day.
The South Carolina pro day is actually today. They did the media session yesterday. So
I was thinking that
it'd be interesting to see with J.C. Horn Man, I've gotten old, Alex. That's the son of Joe Horn, former NFL wide receiver Joe Horn. It happens. Man, you get old and you turn around. These players have these kids that are going in the NFL now here. But Horn, I guess a lot of people have him as a first slam dunk first round pick, and a lot of people don't think that he'll even be on the board when the Steelers do pick at 24 overall. The fact that they're having contact with him, I guess, shows that at least they're prepping for maybe the case, maybe where he would fall. Where's Mike Tomlin going to show up today? Is South Carolina one of the SCs, right? South Carolina or
right.
USC?
Yeah,
or none.
Yeah, I don't know. They usually don't go out west too much. Tomlin doesn't, at least. Maybe South Carolina. They got the other corner, too. I don't know how to say his last name. They called him Izzy at the pro day. He's like 6'4", 200+. Really long kind of dude, which is kind of Pittsburgh's flavor. So we'll see. And they got a slot corner, too, Shee Smith. That's an interesting prospect.
Didn't they ask the Izzy? I think they asked the Izzy if he had contact, didn't they?
With the Steelers?
Right.
I don't think so. Maybe. I didn't ask him that, at least. I don't know who else would have asked him the question.
That's a blast being in there. We're looking forward to covering Michigan here in a little bit.
Yeah, but Tomlin's probably at Michigan, actually, wouldn't he be?
There you go. Wait. Just their media sessions today.
I always get screwed up on that. Yeah. So when's their pro day? Is it tomorrow?
It's got to be. I think it's tomorrow.
They do have media interviews tomorrow though too. So I'm kind of confused about when their pro day is. I'm gonna look that up here briefly. But whenever it's gonna happen, I mean, you would expect Tomlin to be at Schembechler Hall. It's kind of like his thing to do.
Let's see. What's today? Today, let's see, 25th.
Today's the 24th.
Huh?
Today's the 24th, if that's what you're asking.
Okay, today's the 24th. When is
Friday? Friday is.
Okay, Friday. 26th is the Michigan Pro Day.
Yeah, so probably when we're on the podcast Friday, we'll be breaking news that Tomlin / Colbert / Butler are probably there.
All
right. Anything else, Dave? Want to get some read emails and close out today's show?
Have we got everything that we wanted to cover, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
All right, let's get to some of these. Voidable years from Hamish Scragg. Hi, David Knox. Love the show. I'm one of your UK listeners. Let's see here. Can't wait for the draft season with you guys. Maybe my favorite shows of the year, especially the debates. Would love to hear a few on Najee Harris and the other top running backs. Sorry if you have explained this. I'm a bit behind on listening. But how do voidable years work? Does this mean the Steelers will have dead cap in the coming years on restructured deals even after the player is left? Great question, Hamas, and really the short answer to your question, I don't want to get too technical and take up time here, is they just freed up. Let's take Eric Ebron, for example, today. His contract was originally set to expire after the 2021 season. Now, assuming they did, I keep wanting to say assuming, we don't know for sure, but the math sure does work out here. Assuming they added the 4 voidable years here, no new money, but then turned the good chunk of his base salary and that $500,000 into a signing bonus, and then stretch that out. Yes, they saved $3.94 million in salary cap space this year, but now there is $3.94 million in potential dead money next season, especially if the contract voids like we think it's going to do there. So, when you start looking overall here at what the Steelers have done with some of these voidable years here, let me give you the math here. Looking ahead at 2022, Ben, it looks like you've got a potential of $10.34 million in dead money there. Juju Smith-Schuster, $5.6 million. So we're at 15. We're almost at 16 million there. And now with Eric Ebron, another 3.94. I mean, we're over $20 million right now in just those players alone in what looks to be slam dunk dead money, right?
Right.
So, yeah, it starts adding up. That's why, I got on people several weeks ago saying, oh, look at all this cap space. Ho, ho, ho.
A good comedy routine.
Yeah, it's not. is starting to go away, isn't it, folks?
Mm-hmm.
But that's a great question. Yeah, that's basically how these voidable, the result, the byproduct of these voidable year kind of restructures that the Steelers are doing here. Now, the other question that he has about debates on those three running backs. Absolutely. In fact, not only will Alex and I probably debate it, we'll try to get some of our profile, our draft scout team on, and maybe have a round robin asking about each one of those backs as well too. So look forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, here, just a quick bit of news that was sent to me by, I believe his name was Jonathan. So thank you, Jonathan. Steelers are at Virginia's Pro Day today. That's Tosin Kazim, the Steelers analytics guy at Virginia. So not exactly breaking news there, but they are at Virginia.
Tomlin there or no?
No, I just saw the photo of Tosin. I don't know if Tomlin is there or not. My guess is no, but I do not know for sure.
All right, let's see.
And if you're wondering why this analyst guy is at Virginia, he was a former scouting guy with Tennessee, so he has a scouting background, so it makes sense.
All right, this one from George Herreras writes in salary cap. Hey, fellas, George and VA here. You were talking about with the voidable years on Monday, and I got a little confused. Easy, yes or no? Can we franchise tag voidable year players, and after they void, do they count as a possible compensatory pick here? One more quick question. If the Steelers cut a guy that creates $8 million in cap space, but dead money charges $6 million, does that only give you $2 million in usable cap space? Great questions, George. First one, maybe we didn't make it clear enough here, but our understanding, at least in the situations with Ben Roethlisberger and Juju Smith-Schuster, is that the remaining years of their contract will void 5 days after the Super Bowl. However, both should still be able, because they're technically their 2021 contract year won't end until the start of the 2022 league year in March. Technically, both those guys will still be under contract and then won't become unrestricted free agents until the start of the new league year in March of 2022. If indeed that's the case, and we're 98.98% sure that this is the case, then either one of Roethlisberger or Juju, whoever they decided to, if they wanted to, could be franchise tagged. And on the flip side, if either one of those two were to leave as unrestricted free agents, they would count. They could, depending on the deals and all that they signed, they would obviously potentially count in the compensatory. So they would be considered compensatory free agents on top of it, and they should be able to be franchise tagged. The other question here, the difference. Don't get caught up with the dead money versus the $8 million in cap space. And and I think George, you're referring specifically to Steven Nelson. He had an $8.25 million base salary that was due in 2021. He's obviously not going to get paid that now. So that is what you save as far as salary cap space. The other 6.1 or 14 million was the bonus proration left on his contract. Okay, that goes into the dead money file. So his cap charge was over 14 million. All right. In there. So the 8 million, the 6 million, the 6 million of proration is what goes over into the dead money column, and then what you're not paying them this year, which is the 8.25, is what you save in salary cap space minus roster displacement. So that's why the number comes out to like 7.4 something there. So both great questions there, George. Let's see here. You have anything to add to that, Alex?
No, that's a great explanation, and it's just a valuable resource to kind of answer and put in perspective those questions. Thank you.
How about one from Simon Short here? Dave and Alex, hello. Any chance of Trahan Bandy? Remember Trahan Bandy?
Oh yeah,
circling back.
Kid.
Yeah, circling back to the team with the cutting of Nelson would give the team an extra slot option, and as Dave highlighted last year, had some similarity to Mike Hilton. Yeah, look, I mean, it's unfortunate that he'd look, That looked like there was a little something on his college tape there, but I obviously didn't stick. And at this point now, Simon, I would be a bit surprised if Trahan Bandy circled back. Or I mean, they could have had him circle back a while ago for the minimum salary, and it not even made a difference in the cap.
Mm-hmm.
And they obviously haven't gone that route yet. So being as how it hasn't happened yet, I don't think just because they've lost Mike Hilton is going to resort in Trahan Bandy coming back. If they wanted him, they could probably already have him back by now, for the minimum.
Yeah, I think that ship has sailed for whatever reason. Will he be at the Used Pro Day, though, on Monday? I know a lot of those guys are going back the way that Tyler Simmons did, signed by the Steelers. Maybe he gets to work out there, Bandy, and maybe gets a contract from maybe Pittsburgh, but maybe someone else.
All right, let's get this one in from Blake Literal. Then Alex and I got to run here. Free agent budget signing. What are your thoughts on free agent corners? Could we get someone like Garon Conley, Breland, or Dunbar, or are they too expensive? Didn't Conley sign with somebody?
Chris Conley?
No, Garon Conley.
Garon Conley. I do not know. Not aware of it.
I thought I saw something. Maybe I didn't. I thought I saw something. I think there are a few teams maybe looking at it, but I don't think he's officially signed yet. Brashad Breeland or Dunbar, are they too expensive? He is team trade back in the draft. Blake wants everybody to know he's team trade back in the draft. That's understandable. We just went over the salary cap situation, Blake. I mean, Could they get someone on the cheap here? Yeah, but I mean, once again, this is going to, anybody that they sign moving forward, it's not going to be too expensive. So, I mean, I don't want to rule out and say, no, they're not going to add, one of these young, maybe free agent corners here. But if they do, it's got to be cheap. It's got to be first year cap hit very, very low. And, you're talking about maybe a 1 or 2 year deal, something along those lines. But I mean, that's it. That's all you have room for.
Yeah. No, I think you framed all that well, and so we'll see what the moves are. I mean, I don't think they're done. I'm not saying they're not going to sign anybody, but I don't think it's going to be some sort of game-changing signing either.
The fact that, and I have another question here, it's a little bit older about Steven Nelson, but I'll say this: the fact that, I mean, it speaks volumes about Steven Nelson that they could not get even a 7th round draft pick for Steven Nelson, right?
Yeah, maybe that just speaks to the market and the cap crunch. I mean, the Titans couldn't trade Adoree Jackson. He still caught a big contract, and Kyle Fuller got signed 4 seconds after the Bears released him. So it doesn't mean there's a lack of interest. Just people know that if you're going to cut a guy, we're not going to trade for you.
I'm going to venture a guess that Steven Nelson does not sign a contract here in the coming days that'll average out to a new money average of $8.25 million a season.
You don't think it'll happen?
No. Now, can he pocket $8.25 million this year with signing bonus and base salary? I think there's a potential of that. But as far as his new money average goes, I'm going to guess that he's not going to find a contract that'll pay him a new money average of $8.25 million a year on any deal that he signs.
That's fair. I still think he can get paid decently, but I don't really know what the market value is going to be as more teams sign corners.
I bet he comes in around the $6 million, $7 million mark, right around there.
I can buy that.
All right. Anything else, brother Alex?
Nope. I think it's everything. We'll get this cut up and be back for Friday's show.
All right. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You got a terrible take coming today?
I do. It's talking about the cornerback situation and Justin Lane. Make or break summer for Justin Lane.
All right. Look forward to that at 5 p.m. Eastern time. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. Also, if you like what we do and you want to donate to the show, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button, upright navigational bar. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button, upright navigational bar. For $25 for 1 calendar year, you can have an ad-free version of the site. They've been very, very, very popular addition to the site since we added a couple years ago there as well, too. So Alex and I will be back on Friday with you, and until we are, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.